Hello, it's David Wilkins again from Minnesota, Asala, and it's Black History Month. I know that you have been talking about the genesis of Black History Month, its relevance. I know that Ms. Sherrill has certainly shared with you some of that background. I want to continue our conversations about your study of U.S. government. I've said more than once. This is a truly unique time to be studying about separation of powers and how our government operates. You've now lived through the 2020 election. We're into 2021, and it is still evolving and exciting. I want to focus, though, since it's Black History Month, I want to focus on an individual who has had a remarkable impact on our politics, a young Black woman named Stacey Abrams. I'm going to begin with a short video that'll give you a little bit of background on her, and I'm going to come back and then end with an even shorter video that brings the story of Stacey Abrams up to date. She is remarkable. Studied at Spelman College. She then went on to Yale Law School, served almost 10 years in the Georgia State Legislature, and then ran for governor in 2018, which is the subject of this short clip I'm going to play right now. I'll come back and share some other observations about the period of time after 2018 and how she's used her activism to impact, again, the election in 2020 and in 2021. So let's take a quick look. Let me share my screen, get that open, hopefully. Where is that document? There we go. All right. This is Democracy Failed Georgia.
Citizens tried to exercise their constitutional rights and were still denied the ability to elect their leaders. Under the watch of the now former Secretary of State, democracy failed Georgia. Georgians of every political party, every race, every region, again. You see, the incompetence and mismanagement we witnessed in this election had been on display months before in the Republican state legislative primary of Dan Gassaway. Counties under the direction of the Secretary of State issued flawed ballots, and not for the first time, and not just in that district. But this time, the mistakes clearly altered the outcome. Representative Gassaway, a Republican in a heavily Republican district, had to go to court to force a fair fight. And therefore, on December 4th, tucked between the runoffs for Secretary of State and the Public Service Commission, for one community, there will be justice in the process. Win or lose, the people in his district will finally have a say. Many of the same Republicans cheered on Representative Gassaway when he filed his lawsuit. But the same ones have grumbled about the time we have taken to gain a remedy for fellow Georgians who faced a dizzying array of bad action, misinformation, and gut-wrenching hardship. But we are a mighty nation because embedded in our national experiment is the chance to fix what is broken, to call out what has faltered, to demand fairness wherever it can be found. Which is why on election night, I declare that our fight to count every vote is not about me. It is about us. It is about the democracy that we share and our responsibility to preserve our way of life. Our democracy. Because voting is not a right for some. It is a right for all, and it is not a privilege. I stand here today as witness to that truth. This election is about all of us, as is the resolution of this moment. I acknowledge that former Secretary of State Brian Kemp will be certified as the victor in the 2018 gubernatorial election. But to watch an elected official who claims to represent the people in this state baldly pin his hopes for election on the suppression of the people's democratic right to vote has been truly appalling. So let's be clear. This is not a speech of concession. because concession means to acknowledge an action is right, true, or proper. As a woman of conscience and faith, I cannot concede that. But my assessment is the law currently allows no further viable remedy. Now, I could certainly bring a new case to keep this one contest alive, but I don't want to hold public office if I need to scheme my way into the post. Because the title of governor isn't nearly as important as our shared title, voters. And that is why we fight on, and why I want to say thank you. Thank you to those of you who organized your communities and shattered records. More than 1.9 million voters who stood up in this midterm for protecting our public schools, for continuing criminal justice reform, for Medicaid expansion, and for real economic mobility for all of our counties. We won state house races and Senate races, a new seat in Congress, and we put America on notice that change is not coming to Georgia, it has arrived, and you made it so. But those who feared change pushed back. And so we waited for the whole truth of this election, good and evil. We waited for it to come forth. So thank you to those of you who shared your stories, for the tens of thousands of calls into our voter protection line. Thank you for volunteering your hours after the polls closed and for the last 10 days, for driving to all 159 counties and hearing the concerns of Georgia citizens through tears and frustration and disappointment. Because you see, Georgia still has a decision to make about who we will be in the next election, and the one after that, and the one after that. So we have used this election and its aftermath to diagnose what has been broken in our process. Make no mistake, the former Secretary of State was deliberate and intentional in his actions. I know that 8 years of systemic disenfranchisement, disinvestment, and incompetence had its desired effect on the electoral process in Georgia. I also know that we live in a nation where 4 federal judges were necessary to force the counting of the ballots cast in the face of Brian Kemp's opposition to and disregard for their lawful consideration. I know that millions of Georgians, of Americans, of goodwill, and various partisan beliefs, they are enraged by these truths. Now, in response, you may seek to vent your anger, or worse, to turn away from politics, because it can be as rotten and rigged as you've always believed. But I implore each of you not to give into that anger or apathy, but instead turn to action. Because the antidote to injustice is progress. The cure to this malpractice is a fight for fairness in every election held, in every law passed, in every decision made.
All right, let me be sure to stop this and get back to a couple of comments. We started this series of videos talking about the vote. If you remember, Yellow Pain, the rapper, did the piece on the importance of voting. Stacey Abrams is addressing the aftermath of her loss of the 2018 gubernatorial race in Georgia. And she's detailing the things that did not go right and the things that needed to be fixed. Well, that's what she's done over the last 2, almost 3 years with her organization she formed called Fair Fight. And if we have time, I'll show you a clip at the end. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that Brian Kemp is presently the governor of Georgia. He won that 2018 election, and you obviously heard Stacey Abrams' passion about the things that she believes that Kemp did wrong, which again she and her organization Fair Fight have sought to change. The irony in all of this, of course, is that Kemp is now the governor. We've just had the 2020 election, and you may know Kemp's name because he has been the target of the former president's attacks against Georgia. He is a Republican. Most of the elected officials who ran the 2020 election in Georgia were Republicans, and they were all attacked by the former president and his claims that the election was stolen. And all of those Republican elected officials verified under oath that there was no cheating in that election, that the votes were properly counted and certified, and that Biden won. So again, you see the irony. Brian Kemp comes into the governor's office very much a Trump supporter, and is now again the subject of pro-Trump ire for doing his job and ensuring that votes were fairly counted. Uh, Stacey Abrams is owed a great debt of gratitude by Georgia, by Americans everywhere, because what she did was to take her loss and take the energy in addressing the issues she identified and to make it better. The other irony, of course, is that she was so successful in her efforts that indeed Georgia was turned blue. Biden won Georgia. The electors were certified by the governor. And as you may also know, after the election, of course, there were two special elections in Georgia. And because of her work, because of the integrity of the Republican elected officials, the two Democrats who were running against the slated Republicans won. John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock are now sitting in the US Senate. And as a result, again, of Stacey Abrams's work, of their victory, the Democrats now control all three branches of government. They control the US Senate, they control the US House, and they control the US presidency. So again, what we have seen in this remarkable year is how our democracy works. We've seen some tragic examples of when it is attacked, when there are efforts to overturn the proper working of that government, and we're still living through all of that today. But Stacey Abrams, again, a remarkable young woman who took her loss, who built a structure, an organization to address that, and is now in a position, some say, to run for the governorship of Georgia again with that structure that she has built to support her. So let me close with another short video, if I can get it to play quickly, so we don't run too long. Some would say this is the aftermath.
Stacey Abrams, the former Georgia gubernatorial Democratic candidate and star voting rights activist, has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Reuters reports Abrams and her organization Fair Fight Action were integral in increasing Black voter turnout in Georgia this election cycle, a sprawling, years-long effort that culminated in a longtime red state turning blue. A Socialist Party politician in Norway's parliament said Monday, the first day of Black History Month in the U.S., and the last day for someone to be nominated for the prize, that, quote, Abrams' work follows in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s footsteps in the fight for equality before the law and for civil rights.
So truly an irony that on the first day of Black History Month, Stacey Abrams, this remarkable young woman I've been talking to you about, was nominated for a Nobel Prize. You can do some research on the Nobel Prize. Many famous Americans have won it. And Stacey Abrams certainly deserves it. So let me end here. I know that Ms. Sherrill is going to have lots more to share with you about Stacey Abrams, about 2020, and about the great work that she's done and that we know she's going to continue doing in the future. We'll talk soon. Thank you.